Welcome to the Rwandan Vigilante, the channel where we speak truth to power and expose the real stories behind Rwanda's political and economic crises. Today's episode is about something deeply personal and deeply disturbing. A government so desperate for cash it's crashing weddings. Yes, you heard that right. The Rwandan regime is now taxing weddings. Not just the venue or the drinks, but the photographers, the caterers, even the DJ. A day meant for joy has become a target for tax raids. And that's just the surface. This is not just another bureaucratic policy. It's a warning sign, a symptom of a government in financial crisis, desperately clawing for revenue, no matter who it hurts in the process. Let's be clear, this is not normal. Weddings across cultures and countries are sacred moments, symbols of love, unity, family, and celebration. But in Rwanda, they've become hunting grounds for tax officials. Imagine this. You've spent months saving every franc to host a simple wedding. You're not wealthy, you're not famous, just a young Rwandan trying to start a life. You've hired a small caterer, borrowed chairs, and invited close friends. Then, just as the music starts, Rwanda Revenue Authority agents arrive at the gate, not to congratulate you, but to inspect your vendors. They ask if your decorator has a TIN number, if your DJ has paid VAT, if your photographer is registered with the tax system, if your band has a fiscal invoice, and if not, they can be fined, or shut down on the spot. The celebration ends before the cake is even cut. This isn't fiction, it's happening. Across Kigali, in towns like Rubavu, Huye, and Nyagatare, RRA agents are targeting weddings and private events. They call it formalization of the informal sector. But for many Rwandans it feels like state-sponsored harassment. Even Rwandan social media, usually cautious and censored, has erupted. Photos of tax agents at wedding venues have gone viral. Tweets and TikTok videos mock the absurdity. Will they tax the bride's smile next? Maybe you'll need a permit to kiss? Next time, bring your pastor's receipt. It's funny, until it happens to you. This isn't a new law, it's a new level of enforcement. The law existed, but no one expected it to walk into weddings, and it didn't come from nowhere. Back in March 2025, President Paul Kagame gave a speech that many now remember as the moment the alarm bells rang. He told Rwandans to tighten their belts, kwizirika umukanda. A phrase that once meant national discipline now means economic pain. So why this sudden belt tightening? Because Rwanda's economy is under serious pressure, and the causes are political. Let's talk facts. The government's involvement in the Congo crisis, particularly its backing of the M23 rebel group, has drawn international condemnation. As a result, the European Union suspended over 20 million euros in budget support. The United States cut military assistance and reviewed economic aid. International NGOs began pulling out or downsizing. Tourism has slowed, foreign investors have gotten cold feet, and all of this comes on top of a growing debt crisis. Rwanda's public debt has surpassed 70% of GDP, a dangerous threshold for a low-income country with limited exports. The country borrowed heavily to build infrastructure, fund PR campaigns, and maintain military influence in the region. But now, the money has dried up, and instead of downsizing government luxuries, the regime is turning to the bottom, to boda drivers, market vendors, and wedding planners. Let's look at how taxes are actually applied in Rwanda. The tax-to-GDP ratio is 13.5%, below the sub-Saharan average. But that figure is misleading. Why? Because it hides inequality. Big businesses, especially those tied to the ruling party, enjoy exemptions and tax holidays. Take Crystal Ventures, the business arm of the RPF. It controls sectors from telecoms and real estate to agriculture and construction. It has enjoyed state contracts, tax breaks, and access to capital that ordinary entrepreneurs can only dream of. Yet it operates with zero public transparency and no parliamentary oversight. Meanwhile, ordinary Rwandans are taxed on everything. Street vendors must pay daily market fees, sometimes without receipts. Moto taxi drivers pay license fees, fuel surcharges, and sector contributions. Small online sellers have been told to register for VAT, even if they only sell second-hand clothes. And now, wedding service providers are being told to do the same. Let's stop and ask. Is this really about formalizing the economy, or is it about squeezing every drop from the powerless while the powerful go untouched? What we're seeing is not formalization, it's financial intimidation. According to a 2023 report by the African Tax Administration Forum, aggressive taxation of informal workers leads to lower productivity, higher evasion, and more poverty. In plain terms, people either quit, hide, or flee. One wedding decorator in Kigali recently told the Chronicles newspaper anonymously, "I no longer take big jobs, it's not worth the risk. If RRA shows up and I don't have every document, I lose everything." A DJ based in Huye said, "I was fined 150,000 RWF for not having a receipt printer. I only earned 40,000 a gig." Is this formalization or destruction? Even worse, the enforcement is selective. Have you ever seen RRA officers inspect a wedding hosted at Serena Hotel? Or inside the compound of a high-ranking army general? Of course not. This policy targets the weak, the poor, the informal, the unconnected, and it protects the powerful, the generals, the ministers, the billion-franc tycoons. This is taxation without justice. It is a two-tiered economy, propped up by fear. Now let's talk spending. While ordinary Rwandans are told to sacrifice, the elite continue to live large. President Kagame has traveled to over 14 countries since the start of 2024. From Qatar to the UK, from Singapore to Senegal, each trip costs millions, in chartered jets, luxury hotels, and large entourages. In contrast, rural schools lack chalk and textbooks, hospitals in Nyamasheke report shortages of basic medicine, public university lecturers have gone unpaid for months. Even the Rwandan parliament's own budget committee warned in late 2024 that recurrent spending was unsustainable. But no action followed. Why? Because in Kagame's Rwanda, accountability flows downward, never upward. And it's not just about money, it's about control. The state wants to monitor every transaction, every movement, every celebration. Think about that. If tax agents are now showing up at weddings, what does that say about the level of state surveillance? We're not just talking about drones and digital IDs, we're talking about the state inserting itself into private moments, birthdays, baptisms, funerals, weddings. This is not economic planning, this is political control, using taxes as a tool of fear. And that fear is producing silence, or worse, desperation. Thousands of young Rwandans have fled, not to chase dreams, but to escape pressure. They cross into Uganda, into Congo, into Tanzania. Some end up in Libya, Tunisia, or die at sea trying to reach Europe. They are not fleeing war. They are fleeing a system that demands everything, and gives back little. One young man who fled to Zambia told the East African, "I left because I couldn't breathe. I couldn't work without being fined. I couldn't speak. I couldn't dream." That is the cost of repression disguised as reform. So let's ask the hard questions. Why is the government so focused on taxing the poor? Why are Crystal Ventures, ruling party-linked companies, and foreign investors given tax breaks, while boda riders are fined for not having a fiscal stamp? Why is a government that built a national image on efficiency now raiding weddings for VAT? And most importantly, why are we not allowed to talk about it? At the Rwandan Vigilante, we believe in truth, no matter how uncomfortable. We believe in exposing the lies behind Rwanda's shiny reputation. The wedding tax is not about development, it is about desperation. It is about a regime that made reckless choices, lost international support, and is now shifting the cost onto the backs of everyday citizens. It is about protecting the elite, while punishing the masses. So if your wedding is now taxable, what's next? A fee to bury your loved ones, a permit to fall in love, a tax for raising your own children? This is not sustainable, this is not moral, and this cannot continue. We must expose this injustice. We must speak boldly, collectively, without fear. If this video opened your eyes, share it. Let the world see what Rwanda's polished PR machine refuses to show. Subscribe to the Rwandan Vigilante, because this is where silence ends, and resistance begins. Because when the people speak, even in whispers, no regime can truly silence them, and when we rise together.